Hello and welcome. Thank you so much to everyone who's joining us today to chat about our new learning management system. We're going to do a little bit of an introduction first while we wait for some folks to join us. My name is Laura and I'm the Manager of Communications with 4-H Ontario. And today I'm joined by Megan, who is our Volunteer and Database Manager, and she's going to be sharing about our new learning management system, or LMS, moving forward. We are also joined by Adriana. She was contracted as the project manager to develop the LMS for 4-H Ontario. Welcome to you both. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're so excited to share with you all about this new system. So on this Facebook Live, Megan and Adriana are going to tell us about the LMS, what it will be used for, and we'll also have an opportunity to see what it looks like. As a volunteer, you will receive a link at roughly 2 p.m. this afternoon to get your login information so that you can also see what the LMS looks like on your own profile. Youth and families will be able to access the LMS as well eventually, but they will be notified when that is ready. Today, we also have Autumn online with us to help facilitate the live and monitor comments for any questions. She is also the one that made us just look fabulous with our little countdown and well. So we are always grateful for Autumn and her expertise. So if you have any questions as we're going along, please pop them in the comments and then we will answer them as we go. And before we log in and get to look around the LMS, we're going to chat a little bit about what it is. So I'm going to pop it over to Megan and Adriana to tell us about what is the LMS.
You bet. Thanks so much, Laura. So really appreciate everybody popping on here today. We're super excited about this new system and what that's going to mean for 4-H volunteers. Really the whole idea with the learning management system and LMS, as we're going to affectionately call it here, I think probably going forward, the whole idea with it is it's basically kind of a digital classroom, kind of a space. And what that's going to allow all of our 4-H volunteers at this point, and then also other youth participants as well going forward, is basically a hub that kind of like a digital tool for them to really enhance their experience with 4-H Ontario altogether. So it's the space where all of our volunteers will be able to go in and access any screening and training that they need to do. They can access any elective type of training that they might like to take on. They can track their screening and training history, enroll in anything new that they might want to take in, access 4-H resources. That's where all of our new volunteer experience will kind of be housed. So anybody that is starting to, entertain the idea of being a new volunteer candidate, it'll be a great space for them to complete all of the elements they need to. And it'll also be the space where you can do things like access your participant card, and those kinds of things as well, which will be super helpful for all of our volunteers. And then down the road, we will have lots of opportunities for youth to engage with the system too. So whether that starts out with things like doing their youth leader training, completing those kinds of components. Then down the line, again, there'll be some elective courses for youth as well to get in and interact with the system and some sort of enhanced learning coming out of their 4-H experience.
Thanks, Megan. And having seen it, it is such a super slick system, and we're so excited to show you what it looks like. Maybe just before we get into that, Megan, did you want to tell us a little bit more about why 4-H decided to create this LMS?
Yeah, for sure. So Adriana, you can correct me or amend me as I'm right about timelines here, but Adriana was with us here, I'm going to say it's 3 years back now, as a contract staff person a little while back, and sort of did some pretty intense research into the idea of a learning management system, because that is just a direction that the industry is going, right, to provide learning options. And as Adriana's contract that time around got rounded out, we were just not in a position to be able to go forward with it at that moment. Needed a little bit more time to do a little bit more research and those kinds of things. And then fast forward a little ways, we did get afforded the opportunity to do that research and put some more intense effort into looking into the system. And that was brought forward through a grant that we received from Employment and Social Development Canada. And that came through 4-H Canada. So those were funds that were applied nationally and then flowed down through us to the provinces here. And that allowed us the opportunity to go ahead with the purchase of the system, with bringing Adriana back board for a little bit as a part-time project manager for the system, and for us to actually get things kind of rolling, which is what we've done the last 18 months. And now we're in a space where we know that with all of that work that's gone into the back end of it, we're going to have a system that's going to be that easy, accessible sort of a space for volunteers to come in and have a really comfortable, consistent kind of a process that really seems to be for them pretty clearly.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. And maybe just to circle back for anybody who's just joining in now, so who can use this LMS system?
Yeah, so right now, there are going to be a few phases of implementation for the LMS, and right now we're really focusing on volunteer experience to get us started. So like Laura said, folks that are current volunteers with 4-H Ontario, prospective volunteers with 4-H Ontario, those folks will all have logins sent to them here this afternoon. So actually, if you've been getting email communication saying, hey, tune in to our Facebook Live, that's a really good indication that you login coming to you this afternoon. So you can expect that in your inbox. And then shortly down the line, we're going to put a little bit of extended effort and time into the youth experience on the LMS. But I would imagine within the next, I'm going to say 2 months in all likelihood, we'll have that youth opportunity up and rolling as well. And we'll get those folks invited to come and interact with the system too.
For sure. And so for today, we're going to take a look at and do a little tour from what a volunteer perspective will see. But maybe just before we get into that, would you be able to share a little bit more about what the youth would expect to see on there when they get
for sure.
log into the LMS in that couple months' time?
Yeah, for sure. So what you'll see this afternoon, we'll take a snapshot of it here, take a bit of a look into it in just a few minutes. But what you'll see here this afternoon, sort of the volunteer side of things. So there's a whole portal that is designed for volunteer access, and it looks like it's meant for a volunteer. The same will be true for the youth experience. So there'll be a whole separate sort of a dashboard kind of area for youth to access training that firstly might be mandatory for things like youth leading, and then any other sort of experiences that we might want to shift in that direction as time goes on. So for instance, we do have some specific content being created for youth that will sit within the LMS and will be sort of elective for youth to be able to go in and entertain any time that they might like to. Down the road, they could do things like specialize in certain areas potentially too. And that's something that will be afforded to volunteers as well. If a volunteer, for instance, wants to become a judging expert, right? We'll have some opportunities for those kinds of things to happen in different areas too.
Awesome. Well, that is so exciting. And as we've now welcomed everybody, I think a good number of people on, let's lo and behold, look at the LMS itself. So Megan, would you be able to share your screen and we can take a look at what this brand new system looks like?
Absolutely. So we're excited to get a first look at the system for everybody. So what you're seeing here right now is obviously the login page. Like I said, this is for volunteers to log into the system, and everybody will be given their username and password this afternoon, as we've said a couple of times. Just to give the heads up, your username will actually be your membership ID. So the participant ID that you have used for 4-H for as long as you've been involved with us is your new username for this system. And granted password access later this afternoon too. And you're just going to go ahead and hit login to get into the mainframe of the site. So this is what my volunteer experience actually looks like. So I actually am an active volunteer with 4-H Ontario right now. So this is exactly what you might expect if you were a re-engaging or volunteer with 4-H. And up here we have some bright shiny photos, of course, of folks that have been engaging in the program. And then it welcomes you by name here. You'll see that your association is noted there along with your participant ID number, just as reminders in case you might need that information as you go forward. One thing that'll be different for just about else is that you won't see this admin button. For obvious reasons, I have administrative access to the site, so I have a button here that other folks won't see. Otherwise, everything will pretty much exactly the same. And there are a number of different buttons to access different content here. Some of them are fully developed, some of them are in the works. It just depends on what you're looking at. So you can view your courses, those that have been assigned to you. If you are partway through a course, there's a spot here where it'll show, to resume something that you've started that you might want to continue with. You can browse for courses through the full catalog in that area. We will have all of our 4-H Ontario resources uploaded to the learning management system. That is a coming soon feature. So there are a few in there right now, but we'll have a few more available, as time goes on, and then the full library in the future there as well. There is a link out here to the 4-H Ontario website as well, so that you can click right through to the website, and that'll get you back in that direction if you need to. Your profile, so accessing any information about yourself. So for instance, my stuff is in here, everything that's been noted in the LMS. The only that you have the ability to do as a user in terms of change there is request a password change. You can go ahead and make a change in your password. Anything else, let's say you maybe had a change in your email address, we're going to ask you to go ahead and contact staff to let us know about that, to get that updated in the LMS. The reason for that is because we do have two systems, our participant database and our learning management system. We always want to make sure that your contact information is up to date on both. So it would just be a quick message over to staff to get those kinds of things taken care of. Your transcript is here, and I'm going to talk about that a little more in a second. And then an inbox for any messages. So you've been enrolled in, there would be messages that pop up here. It says here right now, I've been enrolled in the 4-H Ontario new volunteer candidate acceptance process. The reason it is just so to show you folks what that looks like. Obviously, I have completed that myself some time ago, but we wanted to take a snapshot of it for you today. As you scroll down, we've got a big old banner here for contacting your support staff if you need to. So we know that, this is going to be a learning process for everybody, and having that sort of contact information is super central to get a hold of whoever it is that you work with in terms of volunteer support was pretty important in the system too. So giving a click of that particular button will take you through to the 4-H website. We see Brianna here as my support coordinator, and I can email Brianna through that button there. As we go back there to the learning management system, some of the more central sort of trainings that you would be involved in are in this My Courses section. So anything that you have either completed or have been enrolled in will pop up in this section down here. As you can see, I have 2 elements that are showing up as completed with a big blue check mark here right now, and then I've been enrolled in this new volunteer candidate acceptance process. What these are curriculums. So they're full-blown, sort of think of them as full courses that have course elements within them. So for instance, for the new volunteer process, it has all of the different components that they need to fulfill within it, along directions for completing everything. There's a banner here at the top that gives them some basic details, and then they can go ahead and complete their new volunteer orientation here online through the system. There is a specially designed new volunteer orientation available for them to complete there. They can go into the child protection training through Commit to Kids through the system as well. So they're redirected over to the Center for Child Protection. The reference checks will get noted in here as complete once those are done. That's something that staff completes for them, along with their interview. And then finally, their police check upload. So they can actually go in and upload their completed police check to the system, and it'll mark off as complete. As they do each of those steps, as they complete any of those steps, of course, this little bar over here will fill up in the percentages that they get completed. If I go back to take a look at others, the volunteer re-engagement one looks very similar. So mine right now says that I'm complete because I have done training actually this year. And you can see when that expires. It's pretty clear when that comes due for me the next time. And again, the youth safety refresher is in here. So one thing that's super cool about the system here is that we were able to actually get the files from 4-H Canada for the youth safety refresher, which means there'll be no navigating out to an exterior site. That training is actually embedded here in our LMS. So there will be no having to log into another system to do the refresher. It's all right in the system, which is super, super slick. One less thing to have to worry about, I suppose. And then they've got their choice of 2 options for training here to do for re-engagement. One would be the online volunteer re-engagement training. So this is the web-based self-directed session that actually is housed within the LMS. The content has been developed in there. And the other, of course, is to continue as we have before in completing one of our webinar or in-person re-engagement options. So if a volunteer was to choose they go to their local association's annual general meeting, all they need to do is enroll and say that they have done so, and then their volunteer support staff would go ahead and that they did in fact do that, and that part would be marked complete for them. And then finally, the police check upload. So again, the same kind of idea. Instructions are there for the volunteer to access back check to complete their police check. And then that's, of course, uploaded through our systems in the back end to say that it has been completed once that has come through from back check. So that's kind of the volunteer re-engagement process. And we do get a certificate of completion once that's done. So that sits over in the side here. As we go through, if we take a look at my transcript, you can see there are a few things here we can see. So I do have my Volunteer in Good Standing 2024 badge. That's a badge of honor for all of those who are fully up to date and complete. That will sit right in the top of their transcript. Just to be very clear with folks who are in fact in good standing right now. I have certificates for having completed the new volunteer candidate acceptance process. I did this one way back when it was kind of a grandfathered system. So mine looks like it was done January 1st, 1900. I don't think it was quite that long ago, but it was a few moons ago. And then my participant card is actually available here too. So what cues our participant card to be available is actually the completion of the volunteer participation form, which you can also do through the LMS system, through the My section, and I have done mine for this year. So having done so, I can actually click to get my participant card. I can now print this if I wanted to, download it, what I'd like to do to interact with that particular piece. And then my volunteer re-engagement certificate is there as well, and we can download any certificates from any of those three. As I mentioned, I've got the volunteer in good standing competency done there, and then courses that I've completed are down here as well. So the annual volunteer participation form is done. Volunteer re-engagement is done, and right now I'm enrolled in the volunteer candidate acceptance process. That is the sort of real quick snapshot and quick look at the system, and I'm sure that spurs lots of questions for folks. We are excited to be running a webinar here upcoming that we'll talk about a little bit more in a couple of minutes to give people a little bit more in-depth a look. And so the idea there being that once you've had a chance to get in using your login and password that will be shipped there to you today at 2 p.m., you'll get the chance to get in, take a look at things, give us any questions that you might have going into that webinar, and then engage with the webinar to hopefully get a little bit more in-depth answer to any challenges you might have, questions you might have, that kind of thing.
Well, this looks awesome. Megan and Adriana, you have done such a fabulous job, and I know this is going to make engagement with our volunteers and youth just awesome. So I think the only question I had here is just maybe to confirm this inbox piece here, is that that there will let people know when they're due for re-engagement and things like that, correct?
Great question, Laura. Yeah, so if you're in the LMS, you'll have a pop-up here in these messages that says, you've been enrolled in the re-engagement curriculum, for instance, and we'll tell you what to expect with that, those kinds of things. What also happens, though, through the back end of the system is that all of those kinds of messages are also queued to your email. So you don't necessarily have to log into the LMS to be told that you need to log into the LMS to complete an element. Those will be automatically populated to your inbox when you're due to complete an element. So those will come to your email. You'll see the same messages pop up here in the LMS. So it's the same ones that I would have gotten to my email that I get in here. And then, so you actually get invited to come and complete a curriculum when you need to do so. And also get nudged every couple of weeks. You'll get a message just saying, hey, you haven't had a chance to complete it yet. Reminder, come on in and log in and take care of this element. So that hopefully folks are well reminded to go ahead and complete whatever they might need to.
Awesome. And so if somebody doesn't receive an email, is it best if they just contact their volunteer support staff?
You bet. Absolutely. Yeah. So the volunteer support team is ready to support folks as they need to in working through, any challenges that they might have, any missed messages, those kinds of things. We will continue, of course, to be monitoring things pretty clearly to make sure that folks have the information that they need. And especially as we get through this first sort of round of re-engagement over the next year or so, that team is going to be ready to do some extra reminding if we need to and those kinds of things.
Perfect. And I think we just have a couple comments in the chat here. One just regarding the login information. And so,
Mhm.
and Joseph, you're on it. Yes, so you will receive the login email this afternoon around 2 p.m., and that will give you a link to the LMS system. As I think we briefly mentioned earlier, this is separate than the website, so it's done through Absorb. You will get a login for yourself at around 2 p.m. this afternoon, and that's when you'll be able to take a look at the system itself. And then I think
That's right.
we maybe have one other question in here.
I would just caution folks to make sure if you don't see anything around 2 o'clock this afternoon, do a quick look at your junk mail just to be absolutely sure that it wasn't flagged too. And then you can always put the learning management system messages in as a safe sender. I will say, and Adriana have tested emails to every possible email address provider we can think of, and we have not been flagged as junk mail to Gmail or to Hotmail, or certainly to our 4-H Ontario email addresses. So hopefully they will sit into your regular inbox, but just in case, always good to check out your junk mail if you don't see it right away.
Yes, very good point, Megan. Thank you. And yes, just here, Rebecca's got a question. Are all registered members going to have access to it, or is it limited to this time to volunteers and junior leaders?
Yeah, so right now, as of today, it is volunteers have access to the system. So that's going to be volunteers who are currently in good standing, who have been interacting with the 4-H program over the last 3 years or so, who might still have elements outstanding, and any new volunteer candidates who are in process at this time. One thing I didn't mention before is that, of course, all of your current credentials for screening and training have transferred over to the learning management system. So wherever you sit in the volunteer process right now, whether you're a volunteer in good standing, whether you're trying to get up to date to become a volunteer in good standing again, or whether you're partway through the new volunteer candidate acceptance process, all of the steps that you have completed to date are accounted for. So all of that data has been sent over to the LMS to make sure that you can basically pick up, where you've left off in terms of your experience. And then we will be adding youth users to the system here in the coming weeks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Megan. And I think that's all the questions that we have so far coming through the comments. But if you do have more going through, please feel free to drop them in the comments and we can answer them after the live is done. You're also more than welcome to share. Oh, sorry, Joseph, you got one more here. Will the LMS allow editing to be done by volunteers in the project library through the resource tab?
So not at this time, Joseph. And I will say that it's one of those things where this system and its capabilities, it's magnificent what is possible within the system. It's unbelievable. So where we sit today and where we may sit as we get more educated over time could be very different in terms of overall experience. We are looking at things like being able to have access for folks like membership coordinators and screening contacts to go in and have special access to view or engage with certain elements, along with other roles too. So we could potentially be posting things like, information that's specific to presidents and vice presidents and association representatives, those kinds of things within the system, and having access for those types of roles. And certainly there may be, elements available for access for volunteers to get in and engage with, updating resources and those kinds of things too. I will say, at this point, I think just about anything is possible. It's just going to be a matter of time and feeling out, one step at a time what this kind of looks like for everybody.
For sure. And I think the only thing I will add to that is that just to keep in mind that these are two different systems. So right now the project library is posted within the website. So it's a separate entity. The form lives there. And then we have the LMS over here. So like Megan said, the sky is a little bit of the limit here, which is really exciting. But as of this point, we will continue that way, the way we have with the project library. But of course, looking into the future at what is potentially possible. And we are so excited to hear that you are also excited.
That's awesome. Very
these
cool.
Opportunities as well. I don't think we see any other questions at this time. But of course, if there's anything that you you have as you've kind of watched the live, even after it's ended, please feel free to drop them in the comments and we will answer those questions there. Otherwise, you can connect with your volunteer support staff as well. And if there's any questions or concerns about your profile in particular, they will be able to help. So thank you so much for joining. This video will remain on our Facebook profile and will also be available on YouTube so you can watch later. If you're a volunteer, you can contact your local volunteer support staff if you have questions or concerns about the LMS or anything related to your individual profile. As Megan mentioned earlier, we are also going to be hosting a webinar on August 15th at 7 p.m. via Zoom. You can register using the Volunteer e-Symposium page on the website, just like you would have in the past. And during that time, we can take a deeper look at the LMS and answer any further questions that you have once that you've had the opportunity to look through the LMS on your own, log into your profile, and take a look around there. So thank you so much again for joining us. We hope you are just as excited about the LMS as we are, and hope you have a wonderful long weekend.